I've been hardcore procrastinating on recording this video. I mean, literally just everything that's been going on in the United States has been beyond the point of overwhelming for me. I am an empath, and so I have a tendency, and a very strong one, a very strong inclination to internalize the feelings and emotions of the people around me and of the things that I'm paying attention to. And so, in initially coming across Ahmaud Arbery's case, I remember seeing his case for the first time mentioned probably in March or something, and I ignored it until everyone started talking about it. And that wasn't because of the fact that I didn't want to see the content. I mean, obviously I don't want to see it because that is damaging, it hurts, it is painful, it's not something that I can just passively consume. But it was literally because of the fact that my mental, my physical struggles to intake all of this information. And so with this all compounding and it just getting bigger with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and then there's Oluwatoyin, and just a whole bunch of other people dying for reasons that I can't physically myself understand. It's been a lot. And I remember, it has obviously been a month now since, things started getting real hot. So I just have been thinking back on the last month and realizing that I really did not give myself the space or the time to truly process. I think processing this information and actually grieving is important, and it's something that I didn't allow myself to do. Granted, I couldn't really do it, and I'm still struggling to do it because it is back to back, day after day, this after that. But the reality is that I needed and still need time to decompress and really understand what's going on. Now, I just want to thank God because in this transitioning period of my life, He really allowed me to be still. And in my stillness, He has ministered and spoken directly to my spirit concerning this issue. And I never once felt upset with God about what was happening. That was never what came across my mind. I was never like, God, why do you allow these things to happen? God, why do bad things happen to good people? God, why does America hate Black people? Those are not questions that ever came across my mind because I know that it is not on Him. For me, it was never on Him because we make these choices ourselves every day. We have a choice whether we want to love or hate. And if people choose to hate, that is not on God, that is on us. And so, I was filled with rage at people, especially people who've been silent, people who claim to be close to me and never said anything. I was filled with rage at the fact that people have such blatant disregard for Black lives for something that is so superficial, something that literally nobody can control. I was upset. And God really had to take me down several notches. And it really did take, that's why I think that the church you choose to engage with and the church that you choose to, it's not even support, just the church you choose to call your community is so important. And the reason why I think it is important is because how God uses the pastor, the minister on that Sunday to really communicate a message carries so much weight. And so for me, it took watching Elevation Church with Stephen Furtick and John Gray, or T.D. Jakes, John Gray, and watching Michael Todd a week later to really calm down a little bit. But even in those moments, that was kind of just God knocking on my brain, Toby, you need to tune into me. Toby, you need to press into me. Toby, you really need to take the time and listen and be still in the quiet place so I can tell you what it is that you need to do in this time. And I think that I'm kind of rambling, but what I do want to say is that I think that right now, the role that the church plays in solving this problem is immense. I mean, the church is one place where everyone pretends to be happy together, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of history, background. That's one place where I can confidently say that people come together and act as though they're best friends. And I thank God for how, he's established a church on earth. But I do realize, and I also, I can clearly speak up about the fact that I do think that in a lot of places that it's just fake. It is not sincere. And so in calling out our fellow church members, calling them out in love, of course, calling people out in love is really important. And how you approach kind of your reproach is also really important. So calling people out in love and letting them know, hey, I did not feel loved when you did this thing or that thing. Hey, word of caution. I know you don't treat me this way, but when you treat other people who look like me this way, it comes across this way. Or kind of just telling people, hey, your microaggressions are not acceptable. I will not be tolerating them. Hey, your silence on the killing of Black people in America is not something that I will tolerate. Just saying these things, I think, in a loving way will really make a difference. And so I think that the role that the church plays in this particular situation is really centered around purpose. Purpose is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of the Christian walk. Discovering purpose, walking in purpose is the pinnacle of the Christian walk. And so really pressing into God in this time and asking him, Lord, what role do I play in solving this problem? Because I think that everyone's purpose will ultimately, benefit mankind, obviously. And everyone's purpose looks a little different. But I do not believe that all the people on earth, that there are only certain people who are meant to solve this issue, if that makes sense. I think that some aspect of everyone's purpose, should you be walking in purpose according to the will of God, will have an answer to what role you're supposed to play in this particular situation. I know for me, it's always been difficult for me to kind of conceptualize my gifts. People have obvious gifts. Some people can sing, some people can dance, some people can act. For me, it was none of those things. I mean, I've played around in all of those things, and I cannot tell you that those are the things that I know God has blessed me to do. But one thing that I do realize, and I have realized only recently, is that God has given me a voice, and this voice I will never take for granted. For as long as I can open my mouth and speak, I will. Advocacy is at the forefront of my purpose, and it's something that I will make sure that I continue to do. And so me speaking up about this as loudly as possible is part of me walking in purpose. And it's something that I do not take for granted, and also something that I want to emphasize that for me, this is what walking in obedience looks like. And I genuinely don't believe that people should be silent on this matter, but I also recognize that not everyone is called to speak in the same way that I do. So I really want to urge you guys to look into yourselves, get into your quiet place with God and really ask him, Lord, what do you want me to do in this season? What is my purpose? How can I make sure that Black people in America and Black people all over the world, because this is not just an American problem, it is just very emphasized in America. How can I make sure that they feel loved, that they feel the love of Christ, that in spite of who they are, in spite of where they've been, in spite of how they've been treated, that they are still loved and deserving of the grace? I mean, we don't deserve grace, but you've given it to us freely, Lord. And so because you give it to us freely, how can I extend grace? How can I be Christ on earth for those around me? I think these are real questions that we need to be asking ourselves. I also think that it is really important that we take the time to get educated. One thing that I thank God for is that I was able to learn a lot of the nuances of the Black experience, obviously from my own experiences, but in school. And the reason why I say that I was able to learn these things in school is because when my English teacher, for example, would assign a paper and tell us basically that we could write whatever we want, or we have to pick a theme from a book, I would always take those opportunities to write about something that genuinely interested me. And most of the time that had something to do with human rights, racism, sexual violence. These are the topics that I knew that I myself needed to understand. And if my teachers weren't going to teach me, I would take those opportunities to write papers and do the research myself to learn. And I think that learning is something that we all need to prioritize in this moment, because Black history is something that is not covered in the slightest appropriately in schools. The American education system continues to fail students all across the country because it refuses to teach us the history that we need to understand in order to make a better tomorrow. And so I really want to emphasize that you guys go out there and learn. If you don't have time to learn leisurely, as in buying books or watching documentaries, then I urge you that when you're in the classroom, take the time to be intentional and learn. Take classes that allow you to learn, that allow you to explore, especially to my college students. It's not every day take classes that align with your major. Sometimes take an elective, which a lot of schools require you to do anyways. Take an elective that will force you to explore these topics if you don't have time to, learn by yourself. I don't like reading. I do force myself to read. I don't like reading, so I go for the documentary route. I went for the research route when I was in school. And now that I'm not necessarily in college where I have so much freedom and I'm in medical school now in medical school, I'm making sure that I'm looking up cases that has to do with the medical history, that has to do with these injustices, like experimenting on Black men in the Tuskegee trials, things like that help me to kind of understand my history and my context in the United States, but also how I can be better for the people, for my future kids, right? How I can be better for future generations and how we can make this country a better place. And I think all of that has to do with purpose and just kind of understanding the role that we as the church play in this conversation. It is of utmost importance, and I urge you guys, if you have pastors who've been silent on the matter, speak up. Your pastors don't have the right as people of God to be silent on this issue. If they are being used by God, God should be speaking through them to bring some sort of peace in this time. That was a lot. I just kind of spoke all at once, and I'm probably not going to filter any of this audio because I want it to be raw and authentic. But I urge you guys to please dig in, get in those spaces with God and really ask him what role you're supposed to play in this time. Remember, Black Lives Matter. All Black lives matter. It doesn't matter if you're trans. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, anything in between. It doesn't matter if you're disabled. It doesn't matter what kind of Black person you are. All Black lives matter, and that is because we are all children of God. He created us in his image, and nobody has the right to say otherwise. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. I will see you guys in my next one.